You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh, and glad to be here with you. I'm glad that you're with us. This is where you can share your views on the news. We often do, and we've been here since a little over a year, right here live on CKLU 96.7 FM, also streaming at cklu.ca, and you can go there. You just click on the Radio Player Canada app. You can stream us. You can also download that same Radio Player Canada app and take us with you and listen to us anywhere, anytime on your favorite device. We are Sudbury's campus and community radio station. We've been around since 1984. Started in a little trailer on the campus on the hill, Laurentian University, Ramsey Lake Road, and now we are located in the Telegraph Building, the historic Telegraph Building, as part of the new MacEwan School of Architecture, all under the guise of Laurentian University. Now, all of the views expressed on this program are that of ourselves and our contributors, and do not in any way necessarily reflect those of Laurentian University or that of CKLU. So I just wanted to get that out of the way, and also let you know that we're live and we're streaming at facebook.com/Sudbury News, youtube.com/Sudbury News. And that's where you can join us each and every weekday morning between 7:30 and 8:30 a.m. And we've just, this is a work in progress. It's a community conversation. It's where you get a chance to come on and share your comments. So make sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow the channels that we have, the pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. We're trying to do all things social media. I even created a TikTok, but then with all this, idea of the interference going on and who owns TikTok and all that stuff, I just kind of went, maybe I should just put a pause on that one. But we're ready to go if we ever want to in the future use that. It's definitely a work in progress and not the easiest thing to manage at a volunteer level, but we're doing the best that we can, and we're grateful for you. So make sure to comment on the show. If you are on Facebook or YouTube, you can comment. We'll do our best to get those comments read on air, so that way people listening on the radio can hear them. And with that, someone who doesn't need to comment because they're right here in the studio is Billy. Good morning, Billy. Thanks for being with us today.
Good morning, Aaron.
And how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Long weekend coming up. Extra long for me. So,
and in which way is it extra long for you? Is it because today you have
today is kind of a day off. Yeah, it's
nice.
There's some stuff to do, but I'll have a chance for a nap, I think.
Right on. A nice holiday nap never hurt anyone, I don't think. So, yeah, thanks for being. I'm in the same boat as you. A little bit of a long weekend, and that definitely helps to keep the moods positive for sure. And speaking of positive, all those people that regularly comment on the show, basically contributors to the show. Monique, good morning. Thanks for being with us. Hope you're having a great, wonderful beginning to the long weekend. Good morning. Hope everyone has a great long weekend. That's Judy. And Jerome, good morning from Matachewan, y'all. Right on. He's a mover and a shaker, that Jerome. He's all over the board. He's in Timmins yesterday. Thanks for chiming in, Jerome. Hope you're having a great Friday. Belinda, good morning, everyone. Happy May long weekend. Vin, good morning or morning. Thanks for being with us. Speaking of taglines, David, stay safe. Good morning, for sure. Hopefully everyone is staying safe and definitely on a long weekend. The weather, which we're going to get into right now, will probably decide what we're going to do with our long weekend. And so with that, we'll get right in right now. We'll be back right after this. And Sudbury Weather brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. For all things Sudbury Weather, visit sudburyweather.ca. But for now, we got it for you right now on the show. It's currently 5 degrees Celsius. And today we can expect increasing cloudiness, a few showers becoming near noon. And then high of 15. Tonight, cloudy with a 40% chance of showers, low of 8. Saturday, cloudy, 40% chance of showers early in the morning. A few showers beginning in the morning, and then high of 12. And the UV index will be 3 or moderate. A little look at your extended forecast. You have Saturday, showers, high of 12. Sunday, sunny, 16. Monday, sunny, 16. Look at there. There you have your window of beautiful weather. Make sure, if you can, to do whatever you can do to enjoy that weather outdoors and get some good old vitamin D. Tuesday, high of 21, a mix of sun and cloud. A 30% chance of showers, though, on your Wednesday, and high of 21. And then so far, it's forecasting sunny on Thursday, high of 24. I think it's a positive 6-day forecast, if you ask me. And then your satellite. Looking a bit, well, that's still yesterday's. Let's see if we can get a bit of something a little bit more recent here. And there it is. That's your recent. It's mostly cloudy over northern Ontario. And for those on the radio, it's just a bunch of clouds over northern Ontario. That's your Sudbury Weather, brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. We'll be back with a bit of a sports report and then news headlines, those things that have happened between yesterday's show and today. We'll talk about those things, whether they're local or abroad, and we'll be back right after this. All right, so hockey, basketball for Sudbury. It's, we're done another season. We're excited for the next season, but for now, we got another sport that's just starting, and that's football. Under 16 Sudbury Spartans home opener is May the 20th, which happens to be tomorrow. Come on and cheer on the hometown as they take on the Etobicoke Eagles. So that would be at James Jerome Field, and that is tomorrow. Let's see what time they're starting out at. Do you have that, Billy, at all? No, eh?
I don't.
That's
handy,
fine.
No.
And let's find this for you. Anyways, tickets, though, for the game are $10. Kids 12 and under are free. That's important to know. If you have a family, you want to get there for... the
Kicks
time.
off at 4 p.m.
There you go. Good eyes, Billy. 4 p.m. Kids 12 and under are free, and $10 for anyone else. At the gate, get out, sport your Sudbury Spartans under 16, and then the other Spartans will begin their season as the next couple weeks. So we'll look forward to that as well. This is Sudbury Sports, brought to you by SudburySports.com. We'll be back with headlines. Billy, myself, your comments, and we'll have a great Friday morning show right after this. Okay, and welcome back. Sudbury News Talk on CKLU 96.7 FM and CKLU.ca. Also Facebook Live at facebook.com/Sudbury News, youtube.com/Sudbury News. We're here live in the studio with Billy and myself, AJ, and we have a couple people here. Sorry for the plug. Final day of National Citizens Inquiry live in Ottawa. I do have something to play on this show regarding that. So thank you, Vin. Thanks for letting us know that. And that's been going on for a while. basically a national citizens inquiry looking into how we handled things over the last 3 years. You really do need to do that. So I have a background, not a background, but I went to school for public relations, and part of learning about public relations is that when you have a situation where there's crisis or whatever, and you have your crisis plan, you make it ahead of time. You try and think of all the things that could possibly happen, and then when the crisis happens, you implement your plan. And then after the crisis is over, you then look back and say, okay, what did we do good? What things can we improve on? And it doesn't look like our government is doing that on their own. And so the National Citizens Inquiry is doing what the government actually should have done or been doing for their own measures they took, being a crisis and how they handled the crisis. So that way in the future, they can do better. But they haven't. And so the National Citizens Inquiry is doing that for them. And it's taking experts from around Canada. It's traveled around Canada. A lot of cities have had their own, so that way to get local people from each major city across Canada to testify of their experience during the pandemic, and it's been pretty eye-opening. So thank you, Vin, for sharing that. That's the last the day of that. So I guess we'll look forward to hearing the reports on that, and we do have a bit of a clip to play concerning that, so we'll get to that a little bit later. Happy long weekend, Shane. Thanks for being with us again today, and hopefully you'll have a happy long weekend as well. Danica, good morning. Wishing everyone an awesome and safe long weekend. Thank you. And yes, hopefully we will have that. And Vin says, precisely establishing the pros and cons as well as documenting history while it's fresh in our minds. Correct. It's
Good
just
point.
needed, right?
Yeah.
It's just needed. It's actually good management 101. You would think, again, that the government would have done that if they really did indeed care about their measures and how they affected their country and their people and whatever, right? So it's just good management. Okay, good morning to Mona. Thanks for being with us. Happy long weekend. Same to you, Mona. Hope you're having a great Friday. So I guess we'll just go through the stories today on our Facebook page. We share the stories on our Facebook news feed that we feel we may want to share on the show and dive in a little bit more into the stories. There's many stories, as you know, in news. And so some of the ones that we just feel are more unpackable, if you will, for the show, we share. And this is one I just thought was interesting. Government-funded media. This is coming from the Sudbury Star. Matthew Lau. Government-funded media details government-funded childcare disaster. So I guess it's pointing to, it must be really bad if government-funded media is pointing out the issues with government-funded childcare. Hopefully we have a bit of time to unpack that a little bit today. On a little bit lighter news here in Sudbury's inflatable water park to reopen June the 30th. Splash and Go Adventure Parks Ltd. Announced its inflatable water park will be open for the summer beginning June 30th. Have you ever been to that, Billy, at all?
No, I haven't actually been on it. I walked by. It looks a lot of fun.
As a kid, do you think you would have liked to go to something like that?
As a fully grown adult, I would like something like that.
The kid inside of you as a fully grown
Yeah.
adult, for sure. You can just see this. It just looks like so much fun. I know it was controversial because there was a couple different outfits that were vying for to be at Ramsey Lake, and we had more of a local one that couldn't get insurance and things like that last year, and so that was a bit controversial. So, a couple different companies that offer the same service or the same water park idea. So Belinda says the suppression of the medical attention, all levels, was pretty much criminal. And that's part of the, looking back, right, for what happened during the last 3 years. And as we unpack that, we're going to get into that a little bit later for sure. Thanks for sharing that, Belinda. Vin, is that on Vermilion Lake? No, it is on Ramsey Lake, as far as I know.
Yeah.
They had that last year as well.
Right at Bell Park, I think.
Yeah. You can see it as you drive by on Regent Street. You just look and you can see all the yellow and blue and whatever, those inflatable the inflatable water park just floating on Ramsey Lake like magic. So hopefully, maybe I can get out there this year. Our adults should be allowed on it.
You know, if you can't find like a nephew or a child to bring with you, you're going to look kind of creepy. So,
Yeah. What are they doing here? Just
by
they're not even bringing kids. I was going to say, you know how at adventure parks and theme parks, you have to be a certain height. Like you have to be so tall to get on the ride. Maybe this one, if you're too tall, you can't go on it. Like if you're too big, like an adult, you have to be a kid or something. I don't know. I don't think so. I'm just kind of
There's
joking.
something there. Yeah, you just got to roll with that.
Yeah, I think it's open to all ages. So get out there and stay cool this summer and enjoy the water park on Ramsey Lake. Development charges soar in Greater Sudbury. Really?
That seems backwards. It's a video, right? I couldn't read that one.
Yeah, no, we can't read and we can't play the video. We can play the video, but I'm just being respectful to the conversation I had with the person at CTV. But I'm still waiting for them to get back to me. They said there are people who will get back to me about the idea of playing local news on the local news, radio show in the morning, the volunteer one.
Did you catch the gist of it?
Well, watch just the headline alone, the sub-headline, development charges in the city, fees builders must pay to, it should say help fund, but it says held fund, which happens. People do make spelling mistakes every once in a while. The fees builders must pay to help fund infrastructure projects have increased by, get this, 27% in 2 years in Sudbury, which was already one of the highest fees cities that you had to pay for development charges. And I know a lot of businesses, a lot of builders were complaining for many, many years in this city about high costs for building. But what do you think ends up happening with those costs? Who ends up really paying for them in the end?
I'm going to go with taxpayers. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the homeowners, the people that are buying the house where the builders have to pay the extra, 27% fees. That just means that your home's going to be 27% higher at least because they have to recoup their costs. And it discourages building, period, right? Because these builders, and it discourages people like myself wanting to get into it. You have to be a Dalron or a large outfit in order to afford to build in the first place, to have a lot of capital and a lot of, cash reserves there to afford the upfront costs to build. And so it discourages the economy, period. And they say that we're open to business and we want to encourage that here. So I don't know. I have a lot of opinions on that one.
Yeah. Kind of reminds me like that. What was that airline that tried to get into the industry here in Canada, and they eventually left after a long sort of journey navigation, and they just kind of realized, no, they're just they only want what's here. They've got too much of a foothold in the industry. They don't want these. They don't want some more competition.
No, they don't want more competition. It's just, and if you look at our Air Canada, that's basically, it's like taxpayer funded, right? It's not really its own airline. It's when I saw that, things like that, when we have to own our airline and we can't open it up to the free market, it's now in competition with other airlines. So your government is in competition with you, and they have endless amounts of resources and money because it's taxpayers. And so you try to start an airline and you're basically in competition with the government. Like, it's never a good thing when you're in competition with a government. And more, I remember when I just realized that, wait a minute, I live in a socialist country. Like, I just realized it on my own, and I knew very little about politics or governing ideologies or models. And I was going into Tom Davies Square, and that's where they have all the government services located. And I was just saying, wow, there's a lot of government here. Just every service you get seems to be from the government, and even business. Like they give businesses grants, like different, not just grants, not grants you can apply for, and if you qualify for it because you have everything needed, and just give everyone the same opportunity for a grant. They go out and basically pinpoint a business and give them money. It's like, here you go, here's a government incentive for you. And then what does that do for all the other businesses in that industry competing? Where does that come from? It's like, I remember again at one on Manitoulin Island, there's, a huge business that's been there for years. And then someone just wanted to start it, and they got all kinds of government money to just start up a company out of the blue. No experience hardly doing that. And all their machinery was bought for and paid for. And here's someone who did it on their own and had to pay off loans and whatever and get the business. And someone just come out of the blue and got all kinds of government funding, became his competitor. Like, where the heck does that make any sense for an economy? You know what I mean? And that's what we do in Canada. We just go around giving money to certain businesses, and who decides who those businesses are, and who decides if it's fair or not, the process, right? Now, you must have a counter to that, Billy, because usually you see the other side to something.
No, I've experienced that myself too.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I can see that. And it seems like, having some small businesses in the past, the sort of typical trend was you could apply for stuff, and there is very generous, beneficial stuff to get you going. The only problem is, while you're doing that, you are able to undercut everybody else. So if they don't have the wherewithal to last that year while you're undercutting everybody, then they are going to suffer.
Yeah.
And then the wheel of fortune eventually turns where you're one of the more established people, and then somebody else gets all the, because there's sort of, you've got to try and survive for a year while they're undercutting, because they basically got a government stream there. I'm
not a fan of the model. So just because of that, it doesn't make any sense.
There's good and bad to it, but you could see the long arc of this thing is not good, and you can see why people become a little bit more mentally. You get this sort of not Stockholm syndrome, but you get this subconscious attachment to the government. Like, you feel like you need the government to. Without them,
you won't be able to exist, and it's true. Mm-hmm. And you try starting a business, and right away it feels like the government is out there like a mosquito. Or mosquitoes, or a predator of some kind, because they want their money right away. It's they'll help some business to just throw millions at them, tons of money at some businesses, but then the ones that are just legitimately trying to start it, right away you got taxes, and you got WSIB, and you got all kinds of costs that the government doesn't make it easy. It doesn't make it it doesn't sound like they got your back, which you would think they would want to encourage economy, because then that would increase taxes. Ultimately, it's right at the beginning, they're there to ask for all the money and your pound of flesh kind of thing. And I found that in this particular country, from my own experience, having started at least 8 startups, I felt like that in each and every one of them. And I'm reluctant now. You just want to get a good paying government job where you don't care about your job, and you just go in and you're a cog in a wheel, and you can get benefits, and you can get days off, holidays and sick pay, and just put in your time, and then you get a big pension at the end of it. And that doesn't create a very, very vibrant economy if you have a bunch of people that have that mindset. It really doesn't do much for your country.
It's not good for innovation.
No. So I hear someone who gets very excited about business ideas, but just feels, why would I even try? I'm just, you're already defeated before you even start. And this doesn't help anything. 27% in 2 years. That's almost 30%. That's crazy. The building cost at startup for, fees that the builders have to pay. Okay, So Belinda's saying suppression of the middle class families, and we're struggling enough with Trudy's Manny taxes. For sure. I just listened to a talk again, a media scrum with Pierre Poilievre talking about the carbon tax. There's a carbon tax And then there's going to be carbon tax 2, which we didn't really know about. And then there's the HST on top of the 2 carbon taxes, which ends up being like 61 cents or something 61 cents a liter on gas is what it results in. All the taxes, the new taxes, which are already taxed by the government. The gas is already taxed, but these are brand new taxes, and then you add the HST onto them, becomes 61 cents a liter. So he just wanted to let everyone know that because it doesn't really come out.
Do you recall what the total tax, when you break down, okay, they take your income tax, then the sales tax on the stuff you pay, which has been taxed, and you put it all together and find out exactly how much we're paying in taxes.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone recalls that figure, because I've seen a couple different projections on it.
For sure.
It is way up there.
It is. So you think of it, right? So you get, let's start off with your pay. And your pay, basically, you can say 25% of your pay comes off right away. I remember a friend of mine in class, an international student, running up to me in the hallway with his first paycheck from Pizza Hut. He got a job. He's only allowed to work 20 hours a week or something like that as an international student. So he can only work so much. And he's like, tell me what's going on here. And he's waving his pay stub. I said, what's going on? He says, they took off half my check. I said, what do you mean? He goes, they promised me so much an hour and now I'm only getting this. Are they ripping me off? I said, no, that's taxes. He said, what? Because he's already getting paid. He's already having to pay like 3 times what a student from Canada would have to pay. So he's already feeling a bit jaded about that. And then he goes to work, and then they're taking off, almost a third of his paycheck in taxes. So let's just so now for people that aren't international students, just everyone else. So let's say 25% of your paycheck is already taken off for taxes. So you take your 75% and you go out into the world and you
buy some gas. So now 61 cents on your liter is more tax. And let's just say HST in general is 13%, right? So you add 13% to the 25%. And if you work really hard and you go to school and you pay off all your student loans, which is another kind of, moneymaker for the government. You pay all those off, and then you go out into the world and you do really well for yourself. You get taxed at a higher rate, and more than 25% off your paycheck. Some people are paying 50% of their pay, and then they go out and pay 13% on top of that on things. And that 13% too, who you bought it off paid tax on those items as well, right?
For sure.
And so they have to inflate their prices to cover that 13. So you're actually covering some of their tax that they purchased it when they purchased it as well too. So.
And with everything, the government makes things complicated. So people who in a 52-week span who don't bring in more than $30,000 with their business don't need to charge HST. So if you go to a business that's not making $30,000, they actually don't have to charge the HST. But ones that make over $30,000, as soon as you make over $30,000, even if the next year you only make $20,000, as soon as you reach that $30,000 revenue mark as a business within that 52-week span, it doesn't go from January to December. It's whatever time between 52 weeks you make $30,000, you immediately have to start charging HST, and then forever and ever, amen, you have to. So, but as soon as you start charging HST, you can then remit it and get your HST back that you paid for things. But again, you have to do all the work on that. You have to keep all the receipts, keep all the records, and then you do the work in order to get the HST back. Do you know how much HST doesn't go get reimbursed by the government because people don't have the time, the energy, the whatever? They'll lose a receipt here. They didn't record one thing there. So they just kind of make that extra money, even though they say, no, but you get it back. But you have to do all the work to get it back as a business. This is, again, the red tape they put on small business over and above the business they have to do already. Like, it's hard enough to start a business, let alone all of the extra stuff that a government will put on you in order to collect their own taxes. They make you do all the work for it. And so anyway, so that just to clarify that, when you said a customer or a company would have to, inflate their prices to cover the tax they have to pay, that's supposed to be covered by them get reimbursed for their HST. So they technically shouldn't be adding more on for their tax costs.
Okay. So it's their expenses and for the goods that they purchase.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but still, it's like, so you go out with your 50% of your money you've already had, and then you go out and you purchase things for 13% on that. If you're making money where you're already being taxed 50%, you can darn well know that at the end of the year, your income tax, you're going to be paying more income tax too at the end of the day, at the end of the year for your income tax. So what are you now left with in order to, like, purchasing power? Like, and if you're that well schooled and you're making that much money, whatever, you probably have a good head on your shoulders, and you're a good family person, and you got kids who you want to put through university and college and things like that. But then people become they call those people rich people. And they have animosity towards that, and they say, oh, they need to be taxed even more. So these people go out and say, oh my goodness, look how much tax I'm paying. Maybe I need to find ways to negate that, and they'll have investment properties and invest in certain ways that the government's made, so that way you can have tax loopholes, and then people get all hot and bothered by that. It's really, yeah, socialism isn't the greatest thing to spur innovation and have people encouraged to go out and have new ideas and start new things, because you're penalized more, from trying it, unless you have their help. So you go to them on your knees and you beg them for money and say, we need money. And, you do all the things, and you jump through all the hoops, then you get the money. But now you're not necessarily the person with the good idea and the good business sense. You're a guy who knows how to write a government proposal to get money. That's all. You're good at that. You're good at getting money from the government. Doesn't mean you're good at running a business. Very backwards thinking. And it's not going to have longevity. Exactly. It's just good business. Thanks, Jerome. So there you go. So the city, I guess, needs to understand that to some extent, and help and encourage business instead of penalize. Speaking of, I guess, decisions and government, ways they're running things, liberal gun control legislation passes in the House of Commons. They finally are getting their gun control policies.
Did you play that clip the other day of was it Polyev who's getting asked by a reporter, and he's talking about, I think, someplace in Vancouver, where he said there's a very small amount, like 60 or 80 people are kind of responsible for like 4,000 of the crimes. It's just they have this system. Is that one of the clips that you played? Okay. Yeah. Do you remember the number on that?
I think it was 60 offenders accounted for, yeah.
It's like 4,000, 6,000, like a huge,
crimes.
Yeah. So it's interesting when I think those represent the two spectrums of addressing the crime problem. And it's like, well, if they're going to look the other way on this, are they almost like ignoring that, or, in some cases maybe like letting that happen in order to, manufacture consent for another idea they want to impose, like the gun control thing.
Yeah.
Because it seems like that would be the more obvious issue to address.
Well, they're hell bent on getting, legal, law-abiding gun owners guns, and they're less focused on criminals using, illegal guns. As like you said, that clip yesterday, the reporter was saying, yeah, but why did they become criminals? We need to, but once they're a criminal, they're a criminal. They've done the offense. They got to be, you need to have laws there. And once you've done an offense, there needs to be a punishment associated with that. It just is what it is. Then you can have rehabilitation inside, prison reform, not bail reform. Like, get into prisons and really kind of work with these people and have social workers within the prisons, and then rehabilitate and then get out. Why say, yeah, but it's not their fault, they're criminals, let them right back out and commit crimes again? Sure, like we need to look at that. It's not like we're uncaring people and whatever, but But if we are caring people, you don't care about the person that person just stabbed to death or shot in the face or hit over the head with a baseball bat. You know what I mean? What about those people? What did they do to deserve that? So, okay, it's good to think of the individual who did the crime, and they are a person. God loves everyone the same, no matter what. And you need to love everybody, and you need to help everybody. But that's not a way to do it. You're just creating more harm. And I think it's, you know what I mean? It's just, they're a bunch of liars, and they constantly have just different ways of getting around it. They say it's for one thing, but it's for another. And we're really beginning to wonder what that is. Because why are they so hell-bent on taking, law-abiding, legal gun owners' guns away? What, all the time? Like, what is this? You don't see any statistics that back that up. They're not dangerous. They're not out there committing crimes. Why are you taking these guns away when we have such a huge problem on our streets that you're not addressing? And you're actually going the other way. There's so much mercy for the person on the street with the illegal gun going around actually committing crimes. There's all the mercy, but then they want justice for the legal law-abiding gun owner, and they want to take away their guns. Really think about that for a second. Like, just take away your partisan thinking of what party you've always voted for and they can do no wrong, and just take that away and just think of that alone. Why are they so hell-bent on treating the criminals with kid gloves but treating law-abiding citizens with justice and harshness? What's going on here? Sounds backwards to me. Just does.
Yeah, and that's very, I think, historically kind of like a common setup. Whenever they have to, they have something in the pipe that they want to implement. There is sometimes they create little situations that will get the public to demand that, move forward. So
yeah, they're like, look at all the violence on the streets. We need to get rid of guns. Look, we're taking away guns, but they're taking them away from the wrong people. You know what I mean? Like, So the public's going, yeah, these guns are dangerous. Look at all the news and all the stuff that's going on. Oh, Denise, Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
But I think ironically, people see, and I think it's starting to happen now, where people are seeing some terrifying situations, and they're like, oh, maybe the police won't be able to get to my rural property in time should something bad happen out there. I probably should have some protection.
Well, no, for sure. And that's the thing. They're taking away the protection that people would have on their own to combat, the rises in crime and whatever. But then they're encouraging crime to increase, and they're taking away your ability to protect yourself, because it doesn't look like they're doing a good job at it at all. With anything, they're so focused on this. They just had to keep at it. It was kiboshed already. And remember, Carey Price came out and basically said, enough's enough. We're just hunters. We're not doing anything wrong with our guns. Like, get back. And then he was just squashed by the media, white supremacist, all this stuff. Carey Price. You love him one day, but you stand up for something, and then the media goes on the attack mode. I'm just looking. It's saying that in the headline that 2 of our northern MPs opposed this.
Yeah, I saw that.
Federal, if you can look for that while I just go through this here. The federal Liberal government's gun control legislation bill C-21 passed in the House of Commons on yesterday, while the majority of MPs voted to see the bill pass into Senate. 2 Liberal MPs who represent northern ridings sided with the Conservatives in voting against the legislation. And I'm thinking from earlier news reports, I know Mark Serret, who is Nickel Belt MP, was basically hearing from constituents in this area that were up in arms, no pun intended, about this whole thing. And, he said, no, I don't agree with it. And he's probably one of the 2 MPs, but I was just kind of looking through the story and wasn't able to see his name. I'm sure he's one of them. Good morning, Wade from Pass It On Undercoating. I have to pay you a visit soon, Wade. Could you see if you can look at a few options for me for my vehicles and get back to me? That would be wonderful for undercoating my vehicles. Thank you so much. You don't need security cameras in Montana. Exactly. Okay. So Belinda's saying they want Canadians to be defenseless. Now, it's true. You could sound like a conspiracy theorist saying that, but that is what's going on. That's what it seems like. Like, why are they going after law-abiding citizens when there are criminals out there? It just, again, I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, but that's just the way it seems. Okay, so let's get on with the show, so to speak, and share the screen. That's that. I could just, whatever. It's the whole thing.
What you got for us there?
The Sudbury moves. Oh, yeah, this is kind of a big deal in my view. You know, remember we talked about the idea of the city, they do their yearly budgets, and they were looking at doing long-term budgets instead of just regular budgets each year. So now they've said, they're going to go ahead. They're going to do a 3-year budget. So City Council just asked the staff to prepare 2004 and 2024, 2025 budgets at the same time as they do. You know, I guess this is cool in some ways. Just do a budget but revisit it though if things have changed. I think that's what they're doing.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So you have the main budget in place, so you don't have to have all the time and energy to do the same rigmarole you're going to always do. It's like a template, and then try and forecast as much as you think it's going to be, and then just modify it. It's like a business plan. You make a business plan, you think it's going to go a certain way, but then you start your business, and then you have to modify it as you realize things maybe weren't as bad as you thought or as good as you thought in certain ways, and you just kind of keep massaging it as you move on. So I'm in favor of that, if that's indeed the way that it's going to roll forward. Sudbury MPP calls on province to finance supervised consumption sites. Sudbury MPP Jamie West is calling on province to fund a supervised consumption site in the city. I know they've been waiting for the money from the province, and apparently they promised it at one point, and they haven't been able to get it. That's what I remember from past stories. I'm not a fan of just the safe consumption site on its own as a standalone. I think it's one piece of a puzzle on its way to being rehabilitated, a rehabilitation model. So I don't hear Jamie West talking about that. They just want the safe consumption site. I've never heard that this is just part of a greater plan to move towards a model of rehabilitation. And so I'm not a fan of that. I'd rather just not even have that in the city myself. Your feelings on that, Billy?
Yeah, I think I would have to agree. I think you've looked into this more than I have, but that seems to be the case, that a partial solution is more problematic than doing a much more full range solution.
Yeah, it's like we're going on a trip to Toronto. Let's get 4 wheels. We need the government to get us 4 wheels to go down to Toronto on a trip. And we need them to, and no kind of mention of putting them on another, something that's of a greater, like a car that's going to have an engine and brakes and a place to sit and all that to take you down to Toronto in comfort and hopefully air conditioning and all these things, right? Let's just get 4 wheels. It just seems like that. It's just, and that's a terrible analogy. I understand that, but hopefully you get the idea. It's just not, it's not conclusive. Okay, so this was shared from Natalie, who joined us on the show yesterday. In Cape Real, they're having their family fun big truck showcase. Time to come out and support and have a great time. This will be in Cape Real tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's at the Northern Ontario Railroad Museum Heritage Centre, 26 Bloor Street in Cape Real. Family fun-filled day with numerous trucks on display for children to explore, sound sirens and honk horns. And free admission to the park, giveaways and prizes, barbecue and cotton candy. There will be a cotton candy man on site. Now, also with the cotton candy man, there is a special appearance by the Batman. Remember people used to call him the Batman?
I don't. But
Now he's just Batman.
Okay.
He was the Batman at one point. But he's going to be here with his car. So it's a pretty impressive car, if you ask me. So that's exciting. So if you have any comic book enthusiasts that, it's not Comic-Con. It's only going to be one superhero. But at the same time, pretty awesome for certain people, right? And I know my brother is the hugest Batman fan that there is. And so I have to give him a call. It'd be good just to get a picture with him beside his favorite superhero and car for sure. 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. That is in Capreol tomorrow. They're not calling for sun per se, but you never know. Hopefully it doesn't rain on them tomorrow. Let's look back at the forecast here because I'm trying to remember. It's calling for showers. Oh, well. You're still going to have a good time. Capreol, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Get out there and
Weather
support.
can change.
Yeah, weather, you know what I mean? Rain can hold off. Doesn't always mean it's for sure thing. Speaking of the National Citizens Inquiry that's been going on, we talked a little bit about this at the beginning of the show. They have people from all walks of life testifying at this particular inquiry, looking back at our response to the unprecedented times that we had over the last 3 years. How did our government handle it? Could they have handled it a little bit better? Were there good things and bad things? The government's not looking back and critiquing themselves. And so we thought as citizens, we would have a formal inquiry and go city to city to city to get people's takes on it. And Vin was saying today could possibly be the last day of that. And I have a video of a prominent Canadian chiming in here on that. And we'll just hear what he has to say. His name's Jordan Peterson. And we'll be back right after this.
Peterson. I'm the author of 3 books, Maps of Meaning, 12 Rules for Life, and Beyond Order, 12 More Rules for Life. I've been asked by the Honourable Preston Manning to say a few words about our nation's response to COVID. So let's lay out what happened. We faced an unknown threat of indeterminate magnitude. So a new disease made itself manifest on the horizon, and we had no way of calibrating the severity of the illness. We panicked. We then used the panic to justify the imposition of a tyranny that was modeled for us by an authoritarian state led by the Chinese Communist Party. So in our foolish panic, we abdicated our political responsibility and we copied the first mover, which was essentially Communist China. How did we abdicate our political responsibility? Well, we turned over the necessity to consider a multiplicity of options to hypothetical experts on the public health front. And I would say that was an abdication of responsibility because, first of all, we turned those public health experts into political figures having to adjudicate between a number of competing ethical claims. And we also, our political leaders and ourselves as citizens, allowed our responsibility to be usurped by these experts in a time of hypothetical crisis. We then manipulated public opinion in the most egregious possible manner, using a collusion between corporation, primarily the pharmaceutical industry, government and media, who all colluded together to use fear to impose tyranny. And we did that not only by manipulating public opinion through the media, but by using opinion polls to sample that frightened public opinion, to justify the imposition of restrictions on our basic rights as a consequence of response to that public opinion, and then to lie in the aftermath of that and claim that that was all based on science. All of that was a lie, as I know full well from talking to people who were advising political figures, including conservative political figures, during the epidemic itself. We suspended our basic rights, including the rights to travel, the freedom of association, the right to bodily integrity, and there's barely a more fundamental right than that, and the right to freedom of speech. We did the latter particularly by persecuting people who dared to say anything against the panicked response to the hypothetical COVID epidemic. Here's a rule of thumb for everyone to consider in the future. Imagine there's a crisis. I suppose now we believe the next one is going to be on the climate front. Imagine that your response to that crisis is a kind of paralytic fear. Then imagine that you use that fear to justify the imposition of any tyranny you feel merited, and you do so while accruing power to yourself. Well, you've just demonstrated that you are not the right leader for that crisis. That's for sure. So what else did we do? We did untold economic damage, which has not yet unfolded, to the supply chain around the world. We're going to starve tens of millions of people as a consequence of that, and put a lot more people into absolute poverty as a consequence of increased energy and food prices. We have no idea what we did on the inflationary front yet. We've seen banks begin to fail in the United States, and we have no idea where that's going to end. So that was all a part and parcel of the panicked response. We've damaged the population's faith in both public health and science for at least a generation, maybe more, because if I was a young person looking back at what happened over the last 3 years, I would certainly be disinclined to trust either experts or politicians again in my life. And the damage to public health, I suspect the consequences of that as it unfolds will be that more people will die because they're now afraid of such things as vaccines that would have died if we would have just followed Sweden's example, for instance, and left people the hell alone. I don't know how many of you who are listening know this, but Sweden now has the least excess deaths in Europe. And so the Swedish model, which did involve vaccines, by the way, but no lockdowns and certainly no mask mandates. We lied through our teeth about masks. There's no evidence whatsoever from randomized controlled trials, which are the only form of trial that matter. We lied through our teeth about the utility of masks so that we could look like we were doing something, and that's on you, politicians, who pushed that. We also circumvented the scientific process while approving the vaccines, and we're going to pay a big price for that, and we're certainly not done paying that. And then I would say to the conservatives who are listening, we failed as conservatives because we did not abide by or attend to the law of unintended consequences, right? We had a crisis of unmeasured magnitude. That was the new illness. We put in incredibly restrictive policies to hypothetically cope with it. We lied about the fact that those policies were justified by science. We wreaked untold economic havoc on our society. We hurt the educational opportunities of children, and we failed to attend to the fact that the reaction to a crisis can produce a worse crisis than the crisis itself. So, all things considered, it's hard for me to see how we could have possibly, had we done nothing at all in the face of this so-called pandemic, things would have turned out better than they did. So I think there's ample room for all of us as citizens, and especially those of us who were leaders during this time, to be as ashamed of ourselves as we possibly could. And perhaps what you could remember from this particular talk is that in our panicked idiocy, we copied one of the most authoritarian societies that's ever existed on the planet, and that would be the Chinese Communist Party. So pretty damn pathetic, all things considered. We should seriously be ashamed of ourselves.
Well, that's from Jordan Peterson, well-spoken individual. And I think if anyone's going to sum up what we just went through and give it a report, I definitely appreciate his point of view. And he's spoken to many, many, many people as he is the top of his game in his industry, like his profession, as a clinical psychologist and professor. Now former professor or retired professor from the University of Toronto, a best-selling author with 12 Rules for Life, and he has his follow-up book to that, and now he has a very successful podcast that you can catch anytime. He interviews many, many, many people, experts, and anyway, and is most eloquent at summing up situations as far as I know. I don't know if you've ever heard anyone else be able to put it.
He's got away with words.
Definitely. That's Jordan Peterson. And he's a polarizing figure to some, and I'm still wondering why. I'm not sure if they actually listen to what he has to say. I'm not sure how he can still be polarizing after they hear how he speaks and what he says and the arguments that he makes and the way he positions it. But anyways, that was his testimony for the National Citizens Inquiry and looking back into how we handled things for the last 3 years. And that's how we handled the things for the last hour on this show. I think, thanks to you guys, I think we did a pretty good job today. And I hope that you have a very wonderful long weekend. We will be taking Monday off ourselves, too, for a little bit of a day of rest. So good morning, Diane, Aaron and Billy, bon matin. You'll check out the rewind. Yeah, not a problem. Hopefully you enjoy it, Diane, and enjoy your long weekend. And thanks, Billy. I hope you do the same.
Yeah, you too.
All y'all, stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU. We'll be back on Tuesday. And so stay safe and enjoy, and we'll see you then. Thanks, everyone. Ciao.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.